Welcome to the Film Connection. My name is Bill Ames. I'm a member of the Hockomock Film Festival Committee, and we sponsor an annual competition, and we are the producers of this show, and we want to thank you for watching, and I think you're going to find it very interesting today. Today we'll be looking at the documentaries entered into the 2013 Film Festival Film Competition. Had a lot of interesting entries, but first a little background for you. The Hockomock Film Festival competition was started about 12 years ago. We originated as the Easton Film Festival, and then that we were pretty successful there, so we decided to expand it to the Hockomock Sports League, which are 13 towns in southeastern Massachusetts. And this is proving to be a real work in progress. I think we've been to 8 or 9 of the towns now, have entered into the annual competition. We're very excited about that. So, looking back to the totals, I think there have been over 400 films entered since we started 12 years ago. So we're very pleased with that. And I would add, too, that several, 3 or 4, I think, competitors who have been finalists have gone on to a career, certainly in the media business somewhere. So we're very proud of that. Today, I'd like to welcome to the show Mr. Gino DeGuercio. Gino, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Bill.
Pleasure to have you here. For those of you who've seen the previous shows, Gino, you know this already, but I'll go over it one more time. Gino is the chief judge for the Hockomock Film Competition. He's certainly a co-founder of the competition. By way of career, Gino is a professional filmmaker, has made won several awards, I should say, and has spent many years making public broadcasting documentaries. He's also the adjunct professor at Boston University, so he's an experienced teacher. So, long story short, Gino's well qualified, certainly, to be our head judge. So, Gino, I want to flip this over to you. What are we going to be doing today?
Well, we're going to look at the documentary category. That's my favorite category. It's what I do. Mm-hmm. And we have the 3 top. We have first, second, and third place.
Good.
So we're going to look at parts of each of the 3. And talk about what we liked and a little bit about what could have been improved, I think.
Good. Well, I think the first one, I think people will find very interesting. But why don't we should we just send it off to the back?
Yes, this is called Writer's Block. It's by Ben Weissman, who has contributed quite a few films to our festival over the years. And it's from Ed McDonough's class at Canton High School. Very talented
young man, and certainly Ed McDonough has been a real supporter of our competition and does a wonderful job at Canton High School. So let's roll it, and we'll get back to you in a couple of minutes and to talk about it.
Writer's Block, a short guide on writing short films. Meet Average Joe, a typical man who wants to make it big in Hollywood, a man who wants to be hanging with the big shots, a man who wants an Oscar, a man who wants to make movies, a man who wants to write his own, a man who sounds like he knows what he wants. However, Joe, it is not easy to do such a thing. You must overcome your biggest enemy, an enemy that comes in the form of a white bright light. This is known as Writer's Block! Dun dun dun. Average Joe, don't be scared. Don't let the evil block get you. Listen to me and we'll get you running on your way in no time. Everyone needs to start somewhere, so let's start with writing a short. A short film is a film that is less than a full-length movie, and it's all the aspects of a full-length film but may not be as complicated, which brings us to our first lesson. Do you know what that is, Average Joe? No? Ta-da! First lesson is, keep it simple. Less is more when it comes to writing a short film. What you want to do is mainly focus on having 1 or 2 characters so that the audience can get to know them. You also want to keep the locations at a minimum to limit confusion. So like picking 1 or 2 would suffice. As this may be your first short film, I am guessing you're not rolling in the dough. Making movies can be very expensive, so keeping it simple will also be the cheapest route. We'll get you money one day. Next step, use your resources. Look around you. Anything you own is at your own disposal. The cost? Free. Use these items in location before going on a shopping spree and buying things you already have. Everything's your own prop. Giddy up, little pony. Hey, back to work. Next step, write what you know and know what you write is right. For instance, you want to make a film about a nuclear physicist in his quest to stop his country from using his weapons. However, you're a teenage boy with only a C average in his science class. Wah, wah, wah. Something tells me you're not going to get all the information correct in your film. What you could do is you could write a script in a past memory, something you know well and hold dear to your heart, like an action-adventure flick of hiking a nearby mountain, or a comedy about you trying to ask your high school crush to prom. Better luck next time. If you write what you know, it will make the most sense and give the audience a way to relate to you. If you do, however, want to write a movie about a superhero, a good idea would be doing some research, like reading a comic book. Your goal besides making a piece of art is to also please the audience. If the audience knows you got something wrong, then they are not going to like you, even though they are idiots. Yes, I know it's not a nice word, but the audience are idiots. They need to know everything and have to be shown and not told what's going on screen. Let's say you want to have a man going to a restaurant. Do not have that man just be in his house and then automatically be eating a slice of pizza. What you can do is show him leaving his house, or a short sequence of him driving. Here we see him walking out of his house, getting out of his car, and getting his pizza. This is a nice short sequence showing how he got from point A to point B. Now the audience knows how he got there and won't be confused. How's that pizza taste, Joe? Delicious. Another thing about the audience is that they have a real short attention span, so you want everything to happen quick. Yes, you can build suspense, but time is a valuable thing, and the audience will get bored easily. Make sure you're making smart decisions in your timing and pacing to keep the audience engaged. Just like a drummer, the story should have beats. Beats are places in the story that help it get moved along. These beats should happen every few seconds or minutes to keep the story continuously going. The beat should move the scene toward the climax. This is basic story structure. Every part leading to the climax is called the rising action. The climax is the most important part of every tale and is a turning point of the story. It is the most suspenseful part that should leave the viewer on the edge of the seat with anticipation and excitement. This will all be solved in the resolution. No need to sweat. Now, let's talk about the heart of the story, the main character. The main character will be someone who is very likable. Even if he is supposed to be a bad guy, make something about him relatable or charming, something that you can connect with. But at the end of the short, the character should go through some sort of change. The character must have to face a conflict or there is no story. The conflict could be an inner one or against an enemy, as long as the character tries to overcome it. For instance, in this piece of work, let's study the character and the story. Grab your favorite snack and let's get on with the show. Well, that guy looked rather familiar. In The Lonely Superhero, the big change is the main character is not lonely anymore. At the beginning, he is by himself, and in the end, he finds a soulmate. The climax may be the part when they first make eye contact in the produce department. That leads to the lovely ending of them walking off into the sunset, a short story that gets the message across. Storytelling has been around for thousands of years. Movies have been here for 100. If you think of a story, it's probably already been done. However, it has been done by you. Be original as you can and use who you are in your writing. There you go, Joe. I've given you the pieces, now you must build your story. Defeat the writer's block and hope to see you on that Oscar stage one day. Right on, Joe. Right on.
So that was, I think you'll agree, was a very entertaining and certainly technically for quite a sort of sophisticated approach to making a documentary. But Gino, let's toss it over to you one more time. You're the pro here. What did you think?
I liked it very much. It took first place. And I think we've seen Ben's progress. Certainly over the course of the several films he's sent to us, he's getting better and better. And I think one of those things is he's able to think ahead and plan out his films and anticipate things. And even if you look at from cut to cut, from shot to shot, there are places where he might be in a completely different location and actually have his actor walk off stage and out of the frame, and then he walks onto the frame in the next shot, and that works very well. And you can only do that if you plan ahead and you even storyboard your film so you know exactly what's going to happen. This was not your classic documentary, but we give extra points for thinking out of the box, making things interesting. And the other thing is, we've talked about this before, but the importance of casting. And especially high school students, it's often hard to find good actors. High school students are adults. I mean, there are some people that are just really good actors, and then the rest of us.
Yeah, that fellow was a natural.
Yeah, his name is Steve Thorne, and I get the impression that he and Weissman have worked together before. I thought it was probably a good choice not to have him speak. He was all mime. He's just a great mime. So with an off-screen narrator and the mime working together, it was great. The other really important thing is humor. Love to see humor in these films, especially the docs. I mean, here is a subject, that is not the most exciting in the world. Maybe if you want to write a feature film, it's exciting for you. But by adding some humor, it makes it interesting to watch, and I really enjoyed that aspect of it.
Plus, the opening was good too. I thought with the typewriter and up the big words up on the screen, it sort of jumped right into it.
Yeah. And the other important thing is the information was excellent. I mean, if you know anything about writing for the screen, I found that he gave good, clear information, and it was very helpful. And you could watch this and really help you improve your screenwriting abilities. So you got good information and an entertaining package, and that's really what documentary film is all about.
And I was interested in your opinion of his the bow tie and the suit jacket and everything. That's
part of it. Costume is so important, and we saw in one of the PSAs, Suit Man, again, a high school student dressed, like a business person. And when you see that, you automatically are attracted to that because it's a little unusual. So by adding costume, you suddenly transform that character from just some kid that walked in off the street to a true character. And so I think it's important for people to think about costume as well. I mean, we kind of take that for granted in professional filmmaking and in the theater, but oftentimes that's something that's forgotten by student filmmakers when they're working on a movie.
Absolutely. I think it showed a sensitivity, because you look at the beginning when the typewriter was going and the black and white, the font, of course, was black and the background was white, and then he comes on with a black suit and coat and tie and a white shirt. It flowed nicely. It wasn't, a writer in a funky old jacket or something. It was crisp.
Exactly. Well, Weissman's really thinking about the details. And if you think of the great filmmakers like Stanley Kubrick, I mean, Stanley Kubrick was detail. Everything he did in his films, every single color, every single costume, every part of the scenery was all thought out way in advance. And, you know, he was obsessive about that, but he is probably the, you know, we could make an argument about it, but many people will say he is the best filmmaker that's ever come out of the United States. Really terrific. And that attention to detail is really important in filmmaking, and it's something that Weissman seems to have learned quickly.
Plus the use of humor. I mean, you had that sort of a lighthearted view of a serious content, and then that bit about the pizza.
Oh, yeah.
Demonstrating the shot
Those
sequences.
demonstrations are good. I loved when he talked about his being on a date, you know, and trying to convince someone to be in the prom. That woman was actually his mother with the flowers. Remember that scene? That was hysterical. I mean, we were literally laughing out loud when we saw those things.
Absolutely.
I mean, that alone is just a joy. We'd love to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, clearly a young man on the move in the world of media if he chooses to continue, that's for sure. So any other comments, Gino, before we go to the next show?
No.
Very good. Okay, so what's up next?
This next one is completely different. And now for something completely different, as the Monty Python players would say.
Absolutely.
This was a rather controversial one. I must say it wasn't one of my favorites, but I think the other judges overruled me. It's about pit bulls, and it takes a definite opinion about pit bulls. It's in favor of pit bulls. It thinks that pit bulls have been misunderstood. Let's put it that way. So this is made by Ryan Sullivan, and it's from, again, Ed McDonough's course at Canton High School.
Absolutely. I think Ryan has graduated from Canton High School, but certainly his first allegiance is to Ed and to the school. So let's roll it, and we'll get right back and give it a little discussion.
Today's latest from the Michael Vick dogfighting case. Two of his alleged cohorts pleaded guilty today.
Michael Vick funded the dogfighting operation, provided money for gambling, was present at least 5 fights, and participated in the execution of dogs.
Bull breed dogs were bred specifically for fighting, and one of the things that makes them a great fighting dog are a couple things. One is they're very game, which means that when they're engaged in a fight, they are locked into that fight. Nothing around them distracts them, and their goal is to win that fight. No matter how much damage is inflicted on the dog, it will keep coming back, getting up, coming back, getting up until it can't fight anymore. It's one of the few breeds that can be in the middle of and engaged into an intense fight with another dog, and the referee, I guess, calls a timeout, and within an instant, the dog will flip a switch when the owner comes over to fix it and patch it up, and turn off that aggressiveness, allow the owner to do its job, patch it up, fix it, take care of it, not bite at the owner, not get aggressive toward the owner, become very passive and docile, and then when the fight's back on, switch back on the aggressive switch and go after the dog. Pit bull is really, you know, a general term. It's not a dog. It's not a breed. It's a name given to 4 or 5 different breeds of dogs. One of them, which we have, is a Staffordshire Terrier. Any bulldog breed, has been labeled a pit bull, and it's unfair. Everything that you read online, as I'm finding out, is not necessarily accurate or true. So many people have a negative opinion about the dog. I didn't realize how much of an impact that breed has on people. Not too long ago, my neighbor, who's lived next to us for 13 years, was outside doing some work on his house. I brought our dog out and hooked him up to the outside run, give him some fresh air. And my neighbor owns a cat, and the cat was outside running around, and Blue, the dog being a dog, started barking at the cat. And our neighbor started yelling at me about the dog being a pit bull, that we made a bad decision. He contacted animal control. I contacted animal control after the conversation. While I was reading the breed-specific legislation, and happened to speak to the director of the department. And to my surprise, the director of the department is a pit bull owner and had been for 10 years. In order to own a pit bull, you're required, it's not negotiable. Otherwise you're fined, or they'll remove the dog from your house. You're required to increase your homeowner's insurance policy by $200,000 on the liability. You're required to install a fence 6 foot high around your entire property. You're required to muzzle the dog in and out of the house. You're required to cage the dog while in your vehicle passing through the town of Canton. As we were reading through it, I could hear in her voice she was emotionally distressed by it, because as she kept saying over and over and over again, we pass breed-specific legislation on a breed that really doesn't bite, and reassured me that she was in total disagreement with the breed-specific legislation, that in all of her experience in Canton, which was over 10 years, never experienced an aggressive pit bull bite, an aggressive pit bull at all. And she said, by and large, the majority of her dog bites are a result of a small dog, which typically go unreported, labs, and other non-breed specific legislated dogs. Because if you dig deeper into the breeds that bite, pit bulls are low on the chain. What she found is most of the dogs that do tend to bite are the smaller dogs, but because when they bite it doesn't hurt, or it's a little nip, or you can kind of shoo the dog away, they go unreported. When a pit bull or a German Shepherd or a Doberman Pinscher bites you, it can be a pretty bad bite. What they should have passed was dog-specific legislation against those dogs that are aggressive and bite, or some sort of legislation towards owners that don't properly train and maintain their pets. And she said that's the real issue, because within every breed there are dogs that are aggressive that are going to bite. What they're finding in every state in the country is that, especially with pit bulls or German Shepherds or Dobermans that have Akitas, have an above average intelligence, they're very easily trained. They're great with people because they're easily trained. They socialize well because they're easily trained, and they're very intelligent. More and more towns, counties, cities, states are also taking steps toward abolishing breed-specific legislations, because they're realizing it's not the breed, it's how that breed is being managed that creates the problems. What happens is, with a lot of people that own pit bulls, or bull-type dogs, is they either are uneducated, never went online, didn't learn about the dog, just liked it because it was called the pit bull, and the dogs look big and tough and rough, and they like walking around with them, but they don't give it the time and attention that it needs. And so because of that, those dogs, like any other intelligent dog, could become aggressive. That because they have high intelligence, it's important to provide to them order and control. They need to know what the structure is within the pack, so they view their owners, humans, as a pack. And if you look at the animal kingdom, dogs that live within a pack, there's a hierarchy. There's the alpha male, the alpha female, and then all of the different levels that go below it. And each dog knows where it belongs within the pack. If you don't provide that particular breed, bull breed structure, it will structure itself based upon the lack of structure within its pack. So it will form its own routines. It will form its own it'll function on its own within the pack, and that's where I think some of the disconnect is, with ones that don't understand the breed, have a very difficult challenge with the dog, and as a result they're battling the dog internally. They're not fighting to the point where the dog's attacking or biting or is aggressive, but they're stubborn, they're smart, they want to control, they want to do their own thing. And because it's a working breed, it needs a task to perform on a daily basis, whether that's following the training, structured walks and feeding times, bringing them out and socializing them, constantly providing them stimulating activities because they are so intelligent. And one of the reasons why I think you see so many pit bulls in shelters being euthanized, people giving them away, is that they are lured into this pit bull image, and then once they bring the dog home, they realize they're awesome pets. They're like big, it's funny, but they're like big lap dogs. They just want you to hold them and play with them and wrestle. That's all they want to do. They want to sleep on your lap. They're really great dogs. They also require a lot of attention, a lot of structure, a lot of education, a lot of attention. And for those families or couples or people, individuals that don't have the time, they work too hard, they can't give the dog the attention that it needs, they kennel it up all day, maybe let it out to walk around in the morning, walk it at noon, and then feed it at the dog at 5, and they put it back in the kennel. They find that particular dog is a very difficult dog to manage just because of its energy level and the lifestyle that they lead in relationship to the lifestyle that the dog needs. It's a very time-consuming, all-involved relationship with your pet, and I think anyone who considers owning not just a pit bull breed or pit bull type, any highly intelligent, highly active, high energy breed needs to think long and hard about whether or not they bring that pet into the family, because if their lifestyle is not equal to the pet that they're bringing into the family, it's probably not a good decision.
That's not your average documentary.
No, a little terrifying in places.
But it certainly got my attention.
I think so, and it is in a tradition. It's, I come from the journalistic tradition of documentary filmmaking, where I try to act as a dispassionate journalist and try to help my audiences understand topics. But there are certainly plenty of documentary filmmakers that take a point of view and try to argue for that. And I think that's what this film does. Again, one of the problems I have with it is that there's only a single interview. So it's just one person's point of view. Sullivan doesn't really seem to come up with any of his own ideas. It's all about this one interview and how he feels about pit bulls and his experience. That said, it is a good interview. There is a lot of information. He also has gone out and found a lot of visual material, films and broadcasts and still photographs, and also shot some of his own material. So there's a lot of interesting stuff in there. And I think both you and I felt that we did learn some things about pit bulls by watching it. So that's another positive for this film. So it did win second place, and it was interesting. I don't know. How did you feel about it?
Well, I was interested in the interview. Certainly, as you mentioned, there was a talking. It was a sort of a one-person interview, but I noticed that I don't think the fellow who was being interviewed, who was I think Ryan's father, ever looked at the camera.
Yeah,
he was always looking off to the side.
That's a technique, or maybe he didn't really. Sullivan didn't really think about that. I'm in favor of the interviewee looking almost directly at the camera, not directly at the camera, but slightly off camera. But when you're looking directly or towards the camera, then the audience feels like they're talking to you, rather than them talking to somebody off camera. So I think that it has a stronger connection, and the audience feels a connection with the interview. So I always try to do that. You see other filmmakers not doing that at all. But I think most good documentary filmmakers these days try to do that. And in fact, some filmmakers have gone a step further and actually have the subject looking directly into the camera. And you do that by putting a mirror in front of the camera and actually projecting the interviewer's face on the mirror, so that the person is looking, that you're interviewing, looking straight at the camera, because they see the image of the person that's asking questions.
I think I know what you mean.
That's, if anyone's watched Errol Morris, the famous Boston-based filmmaker, he's won an Academy Award. He did the Thin Blue Line and a number of other great films. That's a technique that he's really used a tremendous amount. And if you watch his films, the people are looking, you know, you're sitting in your living room watching this film and they're looking straight at you and talking straight at you. And if you have a good interview, that's really powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like the nature of the person, Ryan's father, and I thought he was a sort of like a regular guy.
Yes, and also very passionate, and I think that's important. If you're going to do a film, you need to find people who are passionate about the subject.
And he had, and you know, the first person little vignette there where he took his dog out, and the neighbor with a cat, and all that sort of thing.
Personal stories are good, and I also like the fact that he rolled in all those historic images of pit bulls, like the little rascals and other, you know, images.
Yeah.
That in the beginning, that kind of you know, we think of pit bulls now as, you know, walking down, you know, streets of Brockton and some guy's got one on a chain and it's just like, you know, crazy dog.
Yeah.
But historically, they've been in movies and they've been people's pets, and, you know, they haven't had this reputation of being killers.
Well, that's certainly, not that I know anything about all this, but that's got to be, I mean, maybe 100 years ago, if I was walking along the street, I wouldn't be, and I saw a pit bull coming towards me, I wouldn't be afraid.
Yeah.
And of course now I have fear, and of course that obviously is what the dog senses.
Yes.
Immediately. So it's sort of a...
And maybe Sullivan has a point that, you know, they've been misrepresented by the media, and the more the media talks about these attacks, the more people are afraid of them. And I'm sure the vast majority of pit bulls are very sweet dogs. Everyone I talk to about pit bulls say they love their pit bull.
Well, they say they love their German Shepherds too.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't want to get into the, you know, this is not a place for a discussion about whether pit bulls are good or not.
I think that's right.
It's just about the film itself.
But it is a fascinating topic.
Yeah.
No question about it. And I think that's why we gave it second place.
I know, and it raised a lot of conversation. And
yeah.
Oftentimes a good documentary is meant to stimulate a conversation.
Absolutely.
And that's definitely what this did.
Yeah, no, and Ryan, he's a passionate filmmaker, and he's entered numerous times before, so we're happy to see him put one up on the boards in this competition. So that's the first and second place. Gina, do we have a third place?
We have a third place. This one is from Easton. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we've been criticized for not for over-representing Easton in our selections, but in fact, I think this is the only Easton winner this year.
Well, it does tend to go, while we're on the subject, it does tend to go sort of in cycles, we've noticed, right?
I think so. And I think, you know, if we ask the high school video teachers about it, I think they'll say, well, some years we have a much stronger class than others.
It's like sports teams, you know.
I think so.
You have 2 or 3 good years, and then they all graduate, and then...
Yeah.
But anyhow, we digress.
And we love to see, you know, we love to see winners from different towns.
Absolutely.
The more, and we particularly love to see winners from towns that haven't won in the past, or haven't even been represented.
Yeah.
And you know, if viewers know of anybody in Hockomock towns that, you know, they haven't been sending in many films, or they know of video instructors in these high schools, please encourage them to enter the contest. I mean, there's no harm in entering, and they may win $500, which is our top prize. Or,
as we've said in previous shows, the PSA, you know, 1 minute. That's if you're a junior or a sophomore or something, and that's a good place to start. And get your team together, because I think it's.
I know that some of these films students have worked months on.
Yeah.
And then there are other films that students have told us they worked for a day on it. So,
yeah.
You know, seems a little unfair that you win $500 for something you've done in 4 months, and then you win $500 for something you've done in 1 day. But that's life, you know.
Yeah, right. Sometimes you get the right idea, and only takes you a day. Whereas if you don't have the right idea, you know, you can slug it out for 4 months.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe you win, maybe you don't. But anyhow, let's move on.
All right.
Here.
So this final, the third place winner in the documentary category is called Regional Robotics. It's about a robotics competition. I know these have become very popular these days, and the high schools put together a team, and they build a robot, and they go to duke it out in some sort of competition against other schools. So this was the Easton High School's robotics team, and the filmmaker, Jacob Hazel, goes and follows their journey, which it's a journey, it's a competition. Those are all good material for making a documentary.
Absolutely. Well, let's roll it, and we'll be back to you when it's over, and drill down deep into this very interesting documentary.
I'm Jacob Hazel, and I'll be introducing you to the world of robotics through the first regional robotics competition, and the Iron Tigers, the robotics team that I followed for 3 days in Boston. Now, what is FIRST? According to the website, FIRST is the name of the organization that runs the robotics competition that the Iron Tigers are competing in. The mission statement of FIRST is to inspire young people to be science and technology leaders by engaging them in exciting mentor-based programs that build science, engineering, and technology skills that inspire innovation and that foster well-rounded life capabilities, including self-confidence, communication, and leadership. What this means for the students in the competition is that it's supposed to be serious and fun. I hope to show you that in the footage. As you'll see in the following footage, the first day wasn't so good for the Iron Tigers as their robot suffered many problems. Luckily, the first day is just a practice day, so maybe the Iron Tigers can make a comeback.
Okay, so far today we have started off with a robot that cannot climb and cannot shoot. But now we have our climbing mechanism right here. She's getting us up to the 10-point mark, and now we are practicing our shooting mechanism, and hopefully we'll be able to shoot into the 2nd or 3rd point goal.
Unfortunately, the Iron Tigers will be stuck in the practice room all day trying to fix their shooter. Hopefully they'll have better luck on the 2nd day.
Okay, our plan for today is to try to fix the basic problems of the robot, like the lifter and like the compressor issues, and hopefully getting it shooting and the arm working, which would be helpful.
That's pretty much...
Basically, we fix everything.
Yeah.
And if it worst comes to worst, you tape a piece of plywood and say it's a bunker.
Yeah, the worst comes to worst is we'll just ram other robots.
I think in the last game that we played a lot of good defense against the other team because our arm and shooter combinations still having a lot of problems. We have still lingering pneumatics problems like airs leaking out of the system and pipes are breaking and stuff, so we have to work on that. But we were kind of given a disadvantage at the end. The enemy team cut our power from their lifting mechanism, and we had no control of our robot, but the match is being replayed before lunch, so we'll see how it goes then.
Drivers now take control. The Iron Tigers line up at the back rear of the Red Alliance. Taking shots. Final force brings the chains. 34-66 for the blue line. That's between 10-point game.
Well, the match before last, we did a lot of blocking and helped our team. We drew some foul points for our team.
Humans take over.
Last match was fantastic. We're progressively getting better as we learn how our shooter is actually working. And we're starting to shoot frisbees. We shot one frisbee of the original batch into the slot and got 2 points for that. We didn't get to shoot any more, though, because we went to the wrong loading station and they were put in upside down. Our team was able to score 12 points because of us through shooting and getting 10 points in climbing, which worked very well. And it was probably like the best match of the day so far.
Chiefs and Hornets doing a lot of nice autonomous scoring there. And one for the nets. Robots by the sea gonna do that terrifying climb. Let's see if they can flip up the pyramid.
So at the end of the day, we were 3-1. We pretty much broke even almost. Ended at 27th place out of 50. Not too bad for a dysfunctional little first day of competition. Hopefully we'll do better tomorrow, but didn't really go that badly. We had a lot of problem with some of the pneumatic valves and then the rotary motor to kick the frisbees into the shooter. Had a lot of trouble with that, but hopefully they're fixing that up this morning, and we'll get that fixed for tomorrow and continue on our winning path. And right off the bat, we loaded up with 3, and we scored all 3 in the 2-point goal. And then went back to reload, reloaded great, almost no problems, sped back over, and then we stopped, unfortunately. But we lost connection to the serial, but doesn't really matter. We still our best match yet. Sunk 7 frisbees in a row, so not really much I can say. It was great. We won the match, and we're up to 19th place.
When we get going and everything gets working, 4176 is a big player. We just won a match with the Lagerbots and one other team, and we got bumped up to 19th place. It's a possibility we might get selected for the Alliance and the elimination rounds, which would be awesome. So we are a backup robot now for the elimination rounds. We are the 4th highest Alliance that is team that is going to be ready in case of a robot failure. We scored 19th place this year, which is awesome, and compared to last year.
Wait, so what, you want a realistic expectation of our chances? Is it 2 now?
Yeah, I think it's 2.
So basically two robots would have to fall and die.
So it's possible that we could also, it doesn't have to take 2 robots to just fall and die for us to get in. There are other backup teams that are packing up, and if they need another team and basically they're already packed up, then we're ready to go. So hopefully someone falls or something. So it sounds awful, but yes, let's do it.
They've got way further than they did last year. So if we keep progressing at this rate, then in about 2 years, we'll win this thing.
1 year.
1 year, we'll win this thing. Yeah!
Feel is very awesome that we did well. We definitely advanced a lot this year. We beat a lot of veteran teams. That just shows how good of a team we are and how well we can do if we put our mind towards a task.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that one. That was different from Pitbull and Writer's Block, but that's the beauty of film, right? I mean,
All completely different, yeah.
they're all completely different. So,
Yeah.
what did you think of this one, Jim?
Well, this had good information. I mean, if you were somebody who was interested in robotics or wanted to see how these things went or were thinking of joining a robotics team, you'd certainly get a lot out of this. As a documentary film, there were things that I thought they could have done better, especially in a competition like this. You want the audience to have to go, you know, to feel like they're part of the team, and to want the team to win, and to build up some suspense. But what the filmmaker really did was, once they lost a part of the competition, then the filmmaker told you about how they lost the competition. He didn't say anything about building up, are they going to win, you know, what's happening, who are the competitors? No, he was just, oh, well, they just lost this part of the competition. So there's no suspense there. He's making a film about a competition, and yet it's like a football game without the plays. You just find out what happens in, you know, each quarter, right? It's not as interesting. So that's something they could have done better. And I think also it was mostly narrated, and particularly in these sorts of films, you want to feel like you're in part of the team. You want to embed your cameraman in that team, and you want to hear them. You want to see the students being excited. You want to see the students being disappointed. And so I think there are plenty of things that the filmmaker could have done better to make this more of a visceral experience, more like a sporting event.
And certainly, you could have used some music or something like that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
When they were going in on the subway and on the train and things like that. But
that, you know, that said, these aren't easy to do.
It was a solid. It was a solid effort.
Yeah.
I mean, it showed a lot of good pacing, good, you know, no needless distractions.
There's a lot of footage that needs to be go through. You need to figure out what that story is, and you need to put it all together. So, I mean, I think they need to be applauded for the effort. But I would like to see the next one that they do or somebody else does sort of take some of this advice to heart and look at some examples of professional documentaries that follow the format that they're following, and try to examine what those filmmakers are doing to make it such a good film.
I think that's a good point, because certainly one of the beauties of Netflix and YouTube is that a filmmaker, you know, if you want to just get your team together and say we're going to spend Saturday morning going through documentaries,
absolutely,
on YouTube and Netflix, and take the notes
and you know, you read books about the best film directors out there, and they will typically get a whole bunch of films and watch them all, something that are similar to what they're thinking about doing, and taking the best from them and getting their own ideas. And you know, I think the best filmmakers are film lovers. And so if you want to make a film, you know, watch other films and get to know other film directors.
Because I think every profession has a little black book, and they spend their whole careers filling out the little black book of ideas and Rolodex connections and people and whatever, and it's endemic. And that's really the place to start. I think writers would call it a literature search to see what's out there, but filmmakers,
you need to be inspired. You need to be inspired by the greats.
Yeah,
so,
and if you have your concept in mind, the subject you're talking about, and you spend time looking at the videos and on the net and whatever, and gradually you'll, I'm sure, shorten it down to 3 films that show techniques that are very. I remember your son did that split screen. That was like they did on the old TV show 24.
Yeah.
That was very clever.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's used a lot. Maybe not even just 2 screens, but 5 or 10 screens, and there's all sorts of creative things that you can do with multiple screens like that.
Multiple screens. I think that, you know, talking about that robotics competition, that was one technique they perhaps could have used.
Yeah, yeah.
Multiple screens, a little bit of music and things
or
like that.
Or maybe someone just, you know, describing what was happening as you were seeing that, you know, robot. I mean, we never really saw the robot itself, and they never explained what the robot was or how it worked, or even what the goals of the competition were. So those are all things that they could have done to improve this film, and perhaps rather than 3rd place, they could have been in 1st place.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I think that does show the, you know, the variety of documentaries we've had. One on like I say, the robotics, and then pit bulls, and then writer's block, and all three very different, but you know, no two things are really the same anyway.
Yeah, it's fun to see things. I mean, I think we'd be disappointed as judges if all the films were the same.
Yeah, yeah, and certainly documentaries require different skills from a drama.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean,
yeah.
in a dramatic film, you're much more conscious of, you have to build a team.
Yeah, you have a script that you're
actors.
working from, and you have all the shots laid out. In a documentary film, there's so much that is unexpected. I mean, that's what you want. As a filmmaker, you want to go into a situation not knowing what the outcome is going to be, and then you and the audience make this journey to discover what happens in the end.
And certainly the quality of the images is so amazingly, DSLR, I'm not too familiar with all these
digital
terms.
single reflex cameras. A lot of people, we've seen a lot of entries with those now. They are very high quality and not very expensive. I mean, you know, for less than $1,000, you can get a really good one with a nice lens, and you can, if you learn a little bit about the techniques and practice, you can get some extremely good images.
And there's certainly broadcast quality by any
Yeah.
network standards at this point, which was a big change from 5 or 10 years ago with videotape and all that sort of thing.
We've seen the quality of the images come way up.
And also the quality of the audio. I mean, I think
audio is so important.
We
saw some of these, the audio just wasn't up to par. But you know, the most important thing is, you know, get that microphone as close to the person's, you know, within 6 or 12 inches from the person's mouth, because otherwise it sounds like it's far away and it doesn't have the presence that you want.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So these all comes with practice, like in anything else, and just you know, do it time and again. So before we wrap up the show, any other comments, Gino, about the competition and documentaries?
I've really enjoyed this year. We're really happy that the quality, overall quality of these films has been so high. You know, we think, well, as you know, we're trying to expand this out. We're trying to make this into a model that other towns and regions can use. We see it as, you know, a farm team, like a baseball farm team.
That's right. And who knows, in 20 years there'll be an all Massachusetts final from all these sports teams.
We'd love to see that.
Like in sports.
Yeah.
And it's a very level playing field, certainly, in filmmaking.
Yeah.
It doesn't require a lot of, you know, money necessarily, or, you know, a lifetime of conditioning or whatever. You can put together a team, and everybody brings different skills, and that's why we love it. So that said, I think we'd like to thank our sponsors, the Northeastern Savings Bank, one more time. They generously give us a donation every year, very generous donation, I might say. And this allows us to provide cash awards to the filmmakers. The first place award is $500. Second place is $300 for the documentary, drama, and music videos. The public service announcement is slightly less, but anyhow, we're big believers that cash awards are big motivators, because in the case of these, to be a junior or a sophomore in high school and sort of get paid for your art must be a very thrilling experience.
Absolutely.
And gives you
good thing for your resume, too.
Good thing for your resume, and a taste of what to look for in the future. So this is Bill Ames with Gino DeGuercio saying thanks for joining us on the Film Connection, a discussion of the documentaries and the documentaries we were just doing.
That's right.
Yeah, thank you. Anyhow, signing off, and thanks for watching.